Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. Today we're going to do a tea time chat about why luxury makeup is not worth it. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. Every month I come on here to chat about a makeup related topic, and this month I thought I could rope it into my luxury makeup week and chat about why luxury makeup isn't necessarily worth it. Yes, we all love a luxury experience from time to time, but there are plenty of reasons why paying more doesn't necessarily mean you're getting better makeup. In some cases that's true, but it's definitely not the case for everything. And truth be told, makeup is just an incredibly cheap product to be made. So if you're buying luxury makeup, you're not just paying a markup, you're paying like a billion times more than what the product is actually worth, but we'll get to that in a minute. Before we get into the video, it's good to know that I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, and this greatly skews my makeup preferences. I've been a makeup reviewer for more than a decade, and this channel mainly focuses on eyeshadow palettes, esses, and couture's, and getting the use out of your makeup. So if that sounds like music to your ears, maybe you can consider subscribing by clicking subscribe down below and joining the Snow Angel family. See, I already mentioned it in the intro that when it comes to luxury makeup, there are, I think, a lot of reasons why people enjoy buying luxury makeup, myself included. I try to be very mindful, though, of having a balance between showing luxury makeup on my channel as well as more affordable things that are available at the drugstore. And that has to do with the fact that I want this channel to be accessible for any price point you may be dealing with, whatever budget you have available to you, that you can find recommendations here. And since I have been in the game for such a long time, not only do I know what I like, but because I have tried so many products, I just know from a quality standpoint that more expensive doesn't necessarily mean it's better. It's not. And that's what I would like to unpack in this video. So I've got a couple of topics that I want to touch upon. First up, we're going to talk about packaging. We're going to talk about the experience. We're going to talk about the formula of products. We're going to talk about shade ranges. We're going to talk about the price point and the availability. And last but not least, we're going to be talking about hype. So let me start us off with topic number one, which is the packaging. I think the main reason why people like luxury makeup is the packaging. It's just the aesthetic of it. Look at a Charlotte Tilbury where everything has this lovely rose gold. Myself, I love the Lisa Eldridge packaging with the golden tubes, with this satisfying magnetic click, the little embossing of the logo in the top of the cap of the lipsticks, and everything has this lovely golden tone. It feels luxurious. Things feel heavy, and I think that in our brains instantly makes us think quality. Good packaging, quality. Good packaging, quality. And I think that especially for makeup items, the packaging is actually the things that makes it more expensive, but the product is the thing that goes onto your face. And it doesn't really necessarily mean that because it's in a better container that the product will perform better. And I think that that's why with luxury makeup, you very often end up paying a slightly higher price point because of the packaging, more so than anything else. A lipstick can be put in a very simple tube, and I love, for instance, how a brand like Catrice has really managed to show us that good lipstick formulas can be done at a drugstore price point. I swear, buy Catrice lipsticks. Not all of the lines that they come out with are super consistent. A couple of years ago, they went fully vegan, and I really feel that the brand at the time was struggling a little bit, finding their feet with these new vegan formulas, but they are now an all vegan brand, and they are doing some lovely lipsticks in the range, and they do some really stunning packaging. So they are now doing the square tubes, again with the name Catrice embossed into it, and they also do a really interesting bullet that has a really sharp tip that's really helpful with the application, and also like the little velvety embossing on the tube itself with the name. So the lipstick looks so much more expensive than the €4 it goes for. But a brand like Charlotte Tilbury or Lisa Eldridge or Victoria Beckham do these same kind of things in heavier packaging, I have to say. And with like magnetic closures and things like that. That's where the money goes to. But at a, like, sometimes nearly 10 times higher price point than the Catrice ones, even though those lipsticks have a similar amount of wear time. Similar amount of wear time, especially that last collection that Catrice came out with this Scandalous Matte. I think it's lovely. When it comes to eyeshadow palettes, I actually think that the packaging has become simplified over time. Like 10 years ago, we got these really elaborate high-end palettes that had this like really elaborate packaging, and something at the drugstore was like super simple. And I just feel that within eyeshadow palettes, the trend has just led to going more simplified over time. So that's why I feel that, especially for like things like lipsticks and like cheek products, that's where we get the really interesting packaging. Nowadays, I feel, and luxury brands know how to do that. But I feel that sometimes there are many, many examples of much more affordable brands that show us you can do great packaging, great products, but at a fraction of the price. The second point I'd like to make is the experience we have when using the products. One of the reasons why I think luxury brands aren't always quite right is because it's especially in the luxury brands, to give people this luxury experience, that they start adding fragrance, because we want things to smell nice. Gucci, I'm looking at you, your lipstick range is lovely, but take out that floral smell, please. I don't mind it. It goes on and it disappears really, really quickly. But if people are sensitive to fragrance, then simple is just better. And this is something you see in a lot of skincare products as well. The more expensive the product, very often a lot of fragrance is added, or, you know, ingredients are used that, even if they are all natural, that just are there to make things smell nice. And I think that that's not always going to give people the experience they want. So the only reason why it's in there is to give a nice experience, whether it's chocolate scented eyeshadow palettes or floral scented lipsticks. The scent is there for experience only. But that means you're limiting yourself, because not everybody will have the same experience, because some people are quite sensitive to scents. I have asthma. If I smell certain very strong things, I can just start coughing and just feel a little nauseous and a bit headachy just from that smell. Like, my skin doesn't react, which is a whole other game. I know there are people who have that issue where they put something with fragrance on their face and they get swelling or rashes. It just makes your product a lot less accessible than when that fragrance would actually not be in there. Of course, very often fragrance is also in products to mask how the product would smell if it usually comes together like naturally. I had a face cream once from the German drugstore that smelled horribly, like, and then you understand why things have fragrance in them. But yeah, luxury makeup is all about that experience, you know, displaying things on your vanity. I love the way all my Lisa Eldridge lipsticks look on my vanity, for sure. Or if you have like a very satisfying overlay of certain products that just look very aesthetically pleasing, it does something to a person, right? It just does. It just does. However, it comes down to packaging and aesthetics, whereas does it really influence how the product performs on the face when we put it on? Not necessarily. And like I already mentioned, some of the things that brands do to elevate the experience to be able to demand a higher price point and make things luxury means they do things that can actually be harmful for people. And that we're not even discussing like environmental consequences of things not being recyclable, and like I'm not even factoring that in. But just like if people then use the product, it can set off their allergies or whatever sensitivities might have, making your brand not interesting for a lot of people. So that's why I'm like, you know, yes, the experience of using a product and having something lovely like those Pat McGrath Mothership palettes, like the experience of using those is so cool. But do I reach for them if I don't actually make a point of reaching for those palettes? No, because they're cumbersome. So the experience of using them is actually what's, you know, setting me off against trying to use it. Oh well. Thirdly, formula. And this is, of course, a bit wishy-washy because, you know, formulations, even if you look at the ingredient list, can be difficult to tell apart because we never are 100% sure on the percentages of things. But if you just look at what a lot of makeup is, if it's powder makeup, it's probably talc. Liquids are usually like water, glycerin, maybe some silicones. If it's got shimmer, it probably has mica in. Like these are like the core basics of like some waxes maybe. But that's like the core basics of what makeup actually entails. And they're super cheap ingredients. They are incredibly cheap ingredients. Of course, it all comes down to how things are blended, how much of it is it infused with skincare properties or not. Do we add certain like pigments and how is that like done? I get it. Does it ensure wear time or not? It all goes into it. Now there are, from a formulation standpoint, a couple of things that I just rate when it comes to luxury makeup products. Very often I have found that spending a bit more on a lipstick or an eyeshadow just means it wears better over time. So in terms of like longevity, I think that more expensive formulas can sometimes work better. But we're not sure when we pay more in the store whether that formula is also a higher quality formula, because there are so many other factors that you pay for when it comes to what we pay as customers in the store. Maybe other brands just have lesser margins and they have better quality items, but they sell them at a lower price point and they, for instance, cheapen the packaging because for them it's all about formulation. I'm sure there are brands out there that operate that way and where it doesn't really, you know, where they really sort of try not to skimp on the formula and still give you a really high quality product in the pan, but they make like more money on other areas. Like that's where they save money. Whereas I've also tried luxury makeup where I'm like, yeah, this formula is just, it's not good. And then I feel very disappointed. So the chances of feeling a sense of disappointment are just a lot higher, I feel, with a luxury makeup product than when you buy something at the drugstore. At the drugstore, you're like, oh, it was €5. I tried it. It didn't quite work. That lipstick didn't really stay put the way I'd like to. But I can forgive it because, you know, it's okay. It was only a couple of euros. I love the shade. It matches my shirt. I'm happy. But if you have that same problem with a product that was like 30 euros plus, you might feel like, is that worth it? And I remember this being the case when I first bought a Natasha Denona palette. This was back in the day. The middies had never even been released. I bought the Lilac palette. And I remember trying that palette and going like, is this what everybody's going on about? I've since tried other Natasha Denona palettes that I've raved about, and I have just found over time that the Lilac is not quite the same as other Natasha Denona palettes that have been on the market. But I looked at a color story, thought I might like it, and then I felt a little bit disappointed. Same thing with Pat McGrath. When I first tried the Motherships, I was like, is that what everybody's raving about? Until I really tried the formula and like paired it with other things and I really got to know it, I was like, oh, this is why it's good. So I do feel that sometimes with luxury makeup, it can be a little bit more challenging to see the worth of the product in the formula you have. But I do think there are certain luxury makeup brands where, you know, the level of innovation is a little bit higher than at, you know, the drugstore price point, for instance, where they seem to just be copying things at times. But we'll get to that in a minute. So yeah, formula, I feel, is not necessarily reflected in the price point if you buy a luxury product. Next up is shade ranges. So I have mentioned so many times that because I have fair skin, when it comes to complexion products like a foundation, I tend to be better off looking at more high-end brands, luxury makeup, because they very often have lighter shades. Now, I cannot vouch for the deeper end of the spectrum because I know plenty of luxury brands that are very exclusive in terms of the shades they offer, especially in the deeper end of the spectrum. However, at the drugstore, they tend to only offer like 5 shades, and even someone as pale as me can also be left out of the equation, which is with luxury brands usually going to be better. So shade ranges can be lovely. However, in recent years, I find, and I think the revolution really started with Fenty Beauty, where, you know, we got 40 shades in a foundation range. Because that became standard, more affordable brands have been doing this now as well. So even for shade ranges, you can find more affordable priced products in a heap of shades. We don't need to spend 50 euros on a foundation anymore to find a good shade match. I'm thinking Juvia's Place. I'm thinking ColourPop. Like, they are doing some really, really good inclusive shade ranges, and I'm sure I can think of other things as well. I know Essence and Catrice have extended their shade ranges for a lot of their products as a result of this as well, even though those aren't necessarily always the best still, till this day. Still not the best. But Maybelline has stepped up to their game, e.l.f., NYX, like they have products that just do so many more shade ranges. So that's why I think that that's been a development that came from the more luxury makeup sphere, and it's trickled down for sure. So even for that reason, you don't have to buy luxury to find a good enough shade match for a foundation. The challenge there being that it can be difficult to find the entire shade range. For drugstore over here, some things are just not available online, and in the stores they do not offer my shade. So especially when I try out drugstore foundations, I usually struggle much more finding my shade, whereas with luxury brands I can sometimes get it from overseas much more easily, and even if my shade isn't for sale here, I can still buy it from somewhere else. So that's another thing here. Then we need to talk about price points. So I've already mentioned a couple of times that the price we pay as consumers doesn't necessarily reflect the quality of the actual product. Brands have different ways of calculating what they charge for things, and it probably, it more so has to do with marketing than the product itself. So very often if you pay more for a product, this doesn't just go for makeup, it goes for everything, I feel. If you pay more, it doesn't necessarily mean you pay for better quality products. It's actually also marketing that you pay for. You pay for the fact that there are people thinking of how they can sell products to you. Yeah. So when it comes to luxury makeup, and I think that Charlotte Tilbury is the prime example here, because there's a reason why Charlotte Tilbury as a brand is peppered all over your YouTube feed, your Instagram feed, and your TikTok For You page, because they pay people to talk about them. And they have a very strong, I think a very large marketing budget, because I think I get nearly daily emails from them ever since I placed an order again last fall. Still need to take myself off of the mailing list. I always forget and I just swipe left and I delete the email. But they are very aggressive in their marketing strategy. Hi, darling. I find it very, very uncomfortable sometimes. So yeah, price point of the products doesn't reflect how good the product actually is. So I think that again, you're paying for the marketing budget. The fact that they have a massive amount of floor space. I think the Charlotte Tilbury counter is one of the bigger ones here in my hometown. Like, just if you look at the shop floor and how many square meters they occupy. Like, are they in Sephora? Are they available in department stores? Like, that all goes into how much you have to pay for the product. One of the reasons why Essence and Catrice can keep things quite affordable is because they only sell like a limited range in certain stores and then a larger range in other stores. They never sell the entire line everywhere. And that's just a way of saving costs, because that's one of the expensive, of course, that shops also have, is floor space and having people there on the counter to help you find the products and doing all that. That goes into the price as well. So the marketing of it and like the way things are styled and doing all that is very, very much part of it as well. Then we need to talk availability. I've already touched upon it, that for luxury brands, because they're very often sold online through like these conglomerate retailers like a Cult Beauty or a Beauty Bay or Look Fantastic or whatever, more so than drugstore products are. It's getting better with drugstore products, I feel. Like there are more websites now that tend to offer drugstore products as well. But for years, it was a luxury makeup sphere only online. So I could find my shade range in the YSL foundation, but I can't find it in the L'Oreal foundation, which is essentially the same company. So that's always been a pet peeve when it comes to availability with luxury products. It can be easier to find. And the reason why I say it can be is because a lot of luxury brands that get a lot of hype, Natasha Denona, anyone? Not available in a lot of countries. Case in point over here. There is not a single Natasha Denona display in this entire country that I live in. I have to go abroad. There are a lot of Sephora-based, more luxury brands that you can buy at Sephora for sure, but then your country does need to have Sephora. And Sephora, even though it's almost everywhere, it seems, it's not. So Fenty Beauty, not available over here. So there are a lot of brands, Rare Beauty, not available over here. REM Beauty, not available over here. So when it comes to availability, it may seem like luxury makeup is easier to get, but it really depends on the brand and, you know, whether they feel they have a base in all of those different countries. Countries like France, the UK, Germany, the United States, they're big enough to get all of the brands. Big enough. But if you live in a small little country on the North Sea that's called the Netherlands, where most people don't wear makeup on a day-to-day basis, you're going to be skipped. You're going to be skipped over because, again, marketing. You're not interesting enough. There are just not enough customers to market to, so then they don't make the products available to you. That's the way of the game, and especially in the makeup luxury makeup sphere, that's even worse than with drugstore. I feel that drugstore, once it's there, it doesn't disappear very quickly. And if it's there, it's going to be available in a lot of different stores in one go. Sometimes only in larger stores. But I feel with drugstore, it can take a longer time for things to come there. And it may be more difficult to find things online. But with drugstore, it's actually easier to go to a store. Now, I know that this is not the case everywhere, but over here we have like testers in the drugstore, so you can actually test out the product as well. In the US, that's not the case, but that's one of the things that you can do over here, is that you can still test out the product because there are testers available for drugstore makeup over here as well. So that means that with drugstore, it's usually a little bit easier. Bit more accessible, like you can buy your shampoo and also buy a lipstick. It's just a little easier, I think, at the drugstore. There isn't that. I remember that really being a thing when I first got into makeup, like going into one of these stores to buy makeup that I knew was going to be expensive. That was a hurdle for me. And I think that that's something that a lot of people don't realize, like once you're used to like going into Sephora. But, you know, a lot of people make fun of how expensive Sephora sometimes is, and, oh, I just spent 500 euros. But at Sephora, that's like nothing. That's 3 products if you're not careful. Whereas at the drugstore, you know, you're more likely, it's a lot more of a lower threshold in terms of accessibility for a lot of people, I think. Whereas more luxurious makeup may just be a little bit more difficult because, I don't know about you, but if you don't look like, you know, like a certain way, I've definitely been denied service at makeup counters for not looking like they could sell me something. Whereas I'm interested in your product, that's why I'm here at the counter, and then they just don't come over to talk to you because they look at you and they go like, why would you want our product? Because you don't fit the target group that they're told to sell to. So that's another thing that goes into it. I definitely had that experience with the Trinity London counter in Phoenix in London, where I was browsing the products, I was walking around, and there were plenty of free staff, and they were helping everybody who was over the age of 50, who clearly fit the demographic of the brand. And me, they just didn't even talk to. And I was like, you know what? I don't even want to try then. So next summer when I'm in London again, I'm definitely going to be picking up some Trinity London because I still want to try the brand. And then I'm just going to make an effort. But that day I didn't feel like it. I don't always want to, have to make that effort as a customer. Hey, you want to sell me something, right? Everybody is a viable customer, and don't judge a book by its cover. But I feel that that's another thing that goes into the availability of luxury makeup, where they look you up and down, and if they think you don't have the money to spend at their counter, they won't talk to you, which, yeah, I have thoughts. The final point I want to make in today's video is hype. I feel, and this goes into the price point, the marketing budget, a lot of luxury brands get hype. Why? They have a marketing budget, so they can send out PR to creators like myself and get them to talk about their products more so than most drugstore brands. Again, remember, some brands, I know for sure, they are making the conscious choice to put all of their money into creating the product, and they skimp on other things. Part of it is marketing, and part of that is also sending out free product to creators. A brand like Charlotte Tilbury only has hype because everybody's talking about it. And why is everybody talking about it? Because they send PR to everyone and their mother. But that's how you create market saturation, and that's how you get this word of mouth sort of train going. And if you get that hype train rolling, and we've seen that a lot in the makeup sphere, if you've been around, you know, a brand like Anastasia Beverly Hills, who had been doing brows for years, all of a sudden they were the it girl of the makeup sphere. And nowadays, it's Charlotte Tilbury. And I don't even know why. I don't even know why. Not because the products aren't good. They have some really good products, but not everything that's hyped up from Charlotte Tilbury is necessarily worth the money. It's quite expensive to buy, especially if you're like a regular consumer. Buying a full face makeup look of Charlotte Tilbury is something I definitely did. It took me 5 years to get all of those products to be able to do a full face makeup look with them, because they never sent me PR personally. However, it's a great opportunity, of course, to be trying new product, but I think that that's something we also have to be mindful of, that very often quite expensive brands are incredibly hyped up online, and then you always need to ask yourself, is this real? Is this not? I think we just have to be a bit careful with that. And I therefore feel that, if you talk about drugstore, it can come across as a bit more genuine sometimes, because those are things you need to find yourself. And that means that that's usually someone who still has a passion for just trying things out and trying makeup, which is why I love buying things and keeping an eye out on what's there. I've definitely been sent makeup from more luxurious brands. Victoria Beckham Beauty was lovely and sent me a PR package in the fall time, but that was after I had gone to their store in London, picked up a few products, and raved about the ones I had tried, and they saw that review and were like, we're seeing you love our products. We would love for you to try some. So that's what I did, and that's how I ended up with a bunch of Victoria Beckham stuff, and I sent them my wish list thinking they're going to send me 2 things, and then they sent me my entire wish list, which I felt very, very privileged to get. And when I opened that package, I was literally like this. And I've loved everything they sent me. But I think therefore we need to be very careful when it comes to luxury makeup, is that you need to be just very aware of when are you marketed to and when not. Of course, there are plenty of creators who, whose bread and butter of their channel is luxury makeup. Michelle Wong is someone I follow, so I can stay up to date with what's out there in terms of luxury makeup. But that's not me, I don't want just luxury makeup on my channel. I love having a blend of products. I don't love what all luxury makeup brands have to offer. And I really try to pick and choose what stands out to me, what I would like to try. And I love just finding really good, more affordable options as well. I mean, I love that I found that Kiko powder that it's currently in my Shop My Stash, because I think it's just as good as the Hourglass Ambient Lighting powder, but the Kiko one is like a quarter of the price. It's got lovely packaging, it's got really lovely quality, and I just love it when brands do that as well. So that's why I think that when it comes to like a good quality product, if that's what you're looking for, you don't have to pay the prices that luxury makeup has to offer. In fact, you know, if you want to save up for if you're a bit like of a magpie like I am, then that's fine. But don't think you need to make your makeup collection like have this aesthetic, like very luxurious display. If that's what you love doing and you want to spend your money on that, you do you. I love that for you, but I just want to come on here and try and find good makeup, and just good makeup can be universal. It doesn't matter the price point. That I learned that the hard way, and I've loved so many things that Essence and Catrice have put out, or e.l.f., or other affordable brands. I love plenty of affordable makeup. And I definitely will be doing like a drugstore version of this week that I'm currently doing, because I'm coming on here and every video this week is about luxury makeup in some way, shape, or form. So I really hope you enjoyed watching today's video. Thumbs up the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more by me. I make several videos every single week. Next month we'll have another themed week, so I hope you'd like to stay tuned for that. And I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.